Other than that, your picture won't be up live.
All right, Troy, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Business Owners Panel. Really looking forward to talking to Steve and Isaac and Greg today about their businesses and the actions and reactions they took to the pandemic. A couple of announcements. Once again, there are several free giveaways from Josh Feldstein, who's got CDs and some other swag from his jazz band that he's giving away. Blue Sky's giving away a travel bag, very appropriate for what we're all in right now. And we also have now CFO giving away an iPad. There is also a booklet that you guys can download, the attendee booklet. It will talk about all of our speakers and give their bios, as well as some of the discussions. It is a blue book. It's a blue button at the top of the sessions. It's called the Elevate booklet. So if you would all download that at your convenience, that'd be great. With that, I'd like to, we have Steve Conlon from Ogden's Own Distillery with us. I've known Steve for quite a long time. He's running an amazing business and is doing really well. Isaac Childs, I've just recently met him from Rustico. Rustico pivoted and did some really cool things, and we're going to give Isaac some time to talk about that. We also have Greg Nelson from Telligent IP with us down in Austin, Texas. So Steve, I'd like to give you, a few minutes to talk about your company and what you guys did. I know you guys are still probably selling the heck out of some booze right now, but talk to us a little bit about what you did and how you pivoted and how that's working out for you.
Thanks for having me, Troy. So as Troy said, we're Ogden's Own Distillery. We're the maker of Five Wives Vodka here in Utah. We make several other products, porters, whiskeys, Underground Herbal Spirit, Madame Patarini Gin, and we've been in the liquor business for about since 2009, 10 years, 11 years now. And that's been our primary business. And as the pandemic, I'll just jump right into how we responded to the situation that started basically in early March. We started getting emails from folks saying, you guys should make hand sanitizer, because there were a couple different places around the country that started making hand sanitizer. And if you remember back then, there was a shortage of toilet paper, shortage of hand sanitizer, shortage of Clorox wipes, shortage of everything. At that time, we were not allowed to make hand sanitizer because most people don't know there's different permits issued by the government for what you can make. So for us, we had a distilled spirits plant permit, meaning we can make distilled spirits. You have to have an industrial permit to make hand sanitizer. There have been companies around that have both of those permits, and those companies initially started making hand sanitizer, which got some press and then started spawning the emails to us saying, you guys should make hand sanitizer. And then on Wednesday, March 17th, the federal government issued a statement saying that people with distilled spirits plant permits could make hand sanitizer. And that got that email about 3 p.m. I went down to my production manager and I said, we can now make hand sanitizer. Should we do it? And after about 12 hours of thinking about it, our consensus within the company is that we should make some hand sanitizer. And so we made some. We made about 275 gallons worth. And we thought, wow, look at us. We're making 275 gallons worth of hand sanitizer. We put it out there to the public, and by Friday, I had it packaged up. So within 48 hours of having the notification, we had a product with labels, bottles, spray tops, the whole thing ready to go. So Friday at noon, we opened up to sell hand sanitizer, and we had a line about 100 people deep all day long. So we made another quick 275 gallons worth, and we have been basically rolling in hand sanitizer ever since. As of today, I believe we've made about 23,000 gallons of hand sanitizer, and that has become just part of our business right now. It's created a lot of unique challenges. The supply chain has been a challenge. getting ingredients for hand sanitizer became a challenge right away because most distilleries immediately jumped into the business, which ate up all the hydrogen peroxide at the Walmarts and the industrial suppliers and everything else. And as time's gone on, we've gotten caught up and we're ahead of the game now. And that's offered us the opportunity to now start giving back to the community. And we have started donating product to the Navajo Nation, who have been hit extremely hard by this. The infection rate in the Navajo Nation is about 1 in every 37 people have the disease. And most of the communities down there only have one store in them that service, maybe 25 to 30,000 people. So once the stores run out of supplies, it's a desperate situation. There's 175,000 people in the Navajo Nation, and about 40% of them don't even have running water. So hand sanitizer is critical need. Just before jumping on here, we're arranging for flights, 7 flights to fly 1,000 gallons down during the next 5 days to help out down there to 7 different areas. And so, yeah, it's really put me into a whole new category of business that, we're a liquor company, and we quickly had to learn a lot of things about hand sanitizer and distribution and that sort of thing. So the other part of this is, we've always been a community-based company. We always give back. We're always sponsoring events. So we're always committed to helping out in our community. And the other thing that we immediately did is, as we heard bars and restaurants in Salt Lake City were going to be closing down, and Ogden, we went out and we bought gift certificates from all of these places, spent $7,500 or so. And then while they've been closed, we gave out those gift certificates to our friends on Facebook, our followers, so that we could kind of, get people back out and give them a reason to go visit these businesses. And so, when this hit, our pivot has been not how are we going to be affected necessarily, but how can we help? And by helping, we feel like we've sustained good business. I think that's been our strength, and it's been the strength of our team. Our team has felt like, hey, we're doing something that's positive and giving back, and it's kept our employees engaged and excited. And it's been when I compare ours to other businesses, it's been fairly stress-free from a COVID standpoint. It's been more like a stress of how do we help, what can we do to keep going. We've been extremely busy, and it's been kind of an insane 2 months.
So have you had to increase your employees or maintain the same? Where have you been, Steve?
We've actually added about 11 employees right as we started making hand sanitizer. Now, as things have calmed down and people have kind of left on their own accord, or jobs have come back that they went back to, we're maintained about 6 of those, I think, over and above what we had starting out. So
nice, very nice.
Yeah.
Hey, what was the most surprising thing, regarding the switch to sanitizer? What? I mean, you obviously made some plans and did some stuff, dude. What just took you back on it?
Yeah. So the most surprising thing for me personally, what I've learned is our supply chain is extremely fragile. It is set up to service industry as it currently exists. And the moment you change from that, things get tricky. So we've had to track down, plastic bottles. There was a big rush on plastic bottles and spray tops and pumps and that sort of thing for putting our product into packaging that's consumer friendly. And so, for instance, we just flew in from China 10,000 spray tops for bottles because we couldn't find any in the U.S. They should be here today. We've had to take drastic measures to keep putting something that's in a usable container. The other thing, and I don't want this to sound like any political statement or anything, but take it for what you will. Our government was not prepared for this. When I'm a hand sanitizer maker and I'm being called by the FAA, the FBI, the military, the USDA, the hospitals, every first responder along our, the Wasatch Front, that they did not have PPE to go into this, and in those first couple of weeks, I mean, it was frantic. I literally had somebody from Hill Air Force Base standing on our doorstep saying, I've got a check right now for $100,000 worth of hand sanitizer. And that's the military.
Right.
We didn't have it. We did not have $100,000 worth to sell him. And when I told the gentleman that, he's like, listen, provide it to me or I'll go somewhere else. And I just looked at him and said, where are you going to go? And he looked at me and said, you really don't have it, do you? And I said, no. And I said, you really have nowhere to go, do you? And he goes, no. I mean, that's how bad it was going into this. And so our government was not prepared in any form or fashion. You know, and I use the FAA as an example. You know, these guys are controlling air, you know, flights around our communities. And we were providing to them at 6-7 gallons a week so that they can wipe down all their terminals and stay. They use hand sanitizer like it's water because of, you know, all the time they do. It's because of, you know, just the nature of the environment they're in. They're constantly cross-touching things. And so the supply chain was not prepared for this. The government wasn't prepared for this. And it was a real eye-opener for me, just the lack of preparedness.
We had Lieutenant Governor Cox on our first panel this morning, and he talked about how they were the Utah's government was frantically searching for PPE, for hand sanitizer, for all of the stuff that they were looking for. And he talked how they bought through a connection Mitt Romney had, a friend of a friend kind of a deal. They had PPE coming in. It was off of a truck in Chicago. And they flew somebody to Wyoming, Cheyenne to check the truck before they before they wired the money. So
really?
It was right down to the wire, right? And they verified the contents of the truck, and then they wired the money to the person because the truck was coming with the equipment and with the stuff. He also talked about how they procured stuff, paid for it, and it never showed up. It just disappeared.
You know, we provided quite a bit of hand sanitizer to the state of Utah, and the amazing thing is, you know, working with their procurement department was really great. But one of the things I've got feedback from was one of the reason we got on the top of their list and stayed there was because basically they called us one day and said, we need X number of gallons. And I said, I'll have it down to you tomorrow. And, you know, drove it down, dropped it off at their state offices over, you know, I don't even know where it's at, somewhere in the West there. And, yeah, it was quite funny because at that point we were packaging everything into booze boxes, you know, 5 husbands boxes, 5 wives boxes, and, you know, Porter's Fire boxes. And here this woman's got a cart full of booze that she's rolling into the main procurement office, you know. So, you know, it was quite frantic. Our approach was, let's do whatever we can, you know, and we worked hard and we tried to help out everyone we could as fast as we could. And, you know, so much that we ended up getting literally tankers of ingredients, you know, pulling up in front of our building or running a hose through our retail space to get them into the holding tanks that we had. It was chaotic and crazy, and now it's calmed down and we're ahead of the game. And, you know, it's nice now to be able to look at it and go like, okay, how can we continue to give back and look for places that are really, really needing it? You know, the crisis of wanting it versus the crisis of needing it are two different things. Mm-hmm. And we had a crisis of wants. Now we have a crisis of needs, and we're trying to help out in those areas as best as possible.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, Steve. I'm going to switch over to Isaac now, and I'm going to let Isaac tell us his story of Rustico and what you guys did and how that's worked out for you. So, Isaac, go ahead, sir.
Thanks, Troy. Appreciate being here. Just a quick introduction. My name is Isaac Childs. The company that I run is called Rustico.com. We design and make handcrafted leather goods. Mostly journals, notebooks, binders, wallets, bags, satchels. We've been doing that since 2001. So I'm a 19-year-old company at this point. We're pretty unique in the sense that we actually manufacture everything here in the state of Utah and have since day one. So, you know, jumping right into COVID too, I think Steve's right. That kind of hit us pretty hard on the head for that first few weeks. And to be quite honest with you, we transitioned and pivoted to face masks almost accidentally, I think might be the best way to put it. Some of my employees and my product design team had built some face masks for themselves, just using the machinery we had around our offices and some of the submaterial that we use for some of our leather products. We had some leftover 100% cotton twill and kind of a camel pattern that was really cool. About 1,000 yards of that left over, and so they were like, "Hey, let's just make some of these for our people," which we did. And then that buzz kind of got out just from our local crowd and customer base, and we said, well, we have enough material to make about 1,000 masks, so let's just make 1,000 masks for this local need that people were asking us for, which we did. And at the time, I had 2 people in my offices or in my production facility that could sew fabric by itself. We actually had only 2 pieces of machinery that were really set up to sew cotton. Most of our machinery is more industrial based, more compound for sewing thick leather and canvas. And we put those 1,000 units online and probably sold out of them in I would say less than 24 hours. We'd sold through that entire first batch. And then, so at that point, we kind of looked at that and said, hey, is this an option or opportunity for us to one, service a need? We had local hospitals reach out. We had people as far as Chicago and back east, fire departments asking us for donations, for asking us to ship a mask. And quite honestly, at that point, we were looking at it saying, okay, what do we need to pivot and what do we need to change in our facility in order to do that? So we retooled a bunch of our machinery. We started working with some suppliers that we had already done some other fabric with, and it was pretty interesting for us to realize and recognize almost instantly that it's not that much different from leather. The biggest adjustment was just retraining our already existing team on how to sew the fabric and then retooling our machinery. And so we then launched a full campaign, if you will, on product. And at the time we said, hey, we're going to do a 1-for-1 donation match, which quickly turned into 10,000 units almost overnight. And at that point, I kind of was like, hey, I've got 2 people in our offices sewing. We ramped up to about 10. We still were behind. And at this point, we actually have, we brought back, I had closed shop pretty much for the first 2 weeks, but at that point, we had brought back almost every person that I had laid off or furloughed on my production team in order to come back and build these masks. And then we actually started reaching out locally to any seamstresses, any person that knew how to sew masks, and basically started doing a piece rate program. And at this point, we have about 60 at-home sewers that was actually a really beneficial way to kind of work through COVID. We kind of bring them in almost the same way the food service industry kind of developed these drive-in and drive-out models. They drive in, they drop off their masks. We'd hand them a box with sanitized materials and thread, and they would drive away and drop those off a few days later, and kind of just pieced it through there. But our sales on that end really kind of jumped. At this point today, we've sold almost 40,000 masks just through our own online website and that distribution. In addition to that, a few days after we had launched that first one, I had a buddy out of California that owns a manufacturing plant that had a project he was working on for the Defense Department. It's some government contract, and asked me if I'd build over 500,000 masks at that point of a different style of mask, which once again, we kind of looked at the machinery we had and the style of mask he needed us to produce. And we said, yeah, we'll give it a shot. That required us actually finding another couple local cut and sew shops here in Utah County that had shut their doors. They typically do all the little league sports in the summer, from soccer to baseball to basketball. And since all that had shut down, they were basically at 30 seamstresses, 30 workers out of work. So we were able to luckily have a connection there, talk to them and said, hey, we've got this project, you have the machinery, can you help us on this contract? And so as of this point right now, we've produced and shipped almost 300,000 of those masks for that project in and of itself. So that's a little bit of us on the pivot. Quite honestly, it wasn't something that I'd like to go back to making leather products. I think that's what we know and what we love. And we do get asked quite a bit, hey, when's the leather mask coming out? I don't know if we'll ever get that far, but we are actually enjoying what we're doing. We like this new material that we've been playing with, new cotton and other, cotton twill, cotton chiffon, and all this other stuff that we've been kind of looking at. And it's been opening some new opportunities there. But most importantly, now we've donated or we will be donating. We're actually still looking for a few sources that will need them. We've got 30,000 masks that we still need to distribute and donate to. So we're excited to be able to do that as a part of a way of giving back, kind of like what Steve was saying as well. So that's the transition we made in a nutshell. And as of right now, we're seeing a little bit of a, hopefully getting out in front of it. We're just catching up on the 40,000 units that we have been selling through the month of May. But at this point, we're finally now getting to where we need to be. Challenges wise, I think that's something that was interesting too. I would agree 100% with Steve. It's amazing how much elastic you need, 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch elastic you need for face masks. I mean, we have over, I want to say 1.5 million yards on order right now. We found a source out of California that had used to make it in America. They still had the machinery to make elastic cord that they hadn't used in 20 years. But because the demand was so fast, so relevant, so quickly, they broke out that machinery specifically for our project and a few other projects because it just wasn't coming fast enough from where most of the elastics made now out of Vietnam or China or overseas. So that's been pretty impactful as well. And then cotton, finding 100% cotton in the right weights to allow breathability as well as filtration system, et cetera, almost non-existent there for the first 3 or 4 weeks if you didn't have a source and a supplier already locked up. Now we're starting to hear and see bolts of material come in from overseas, and that's 5 weeks later. So it's been pretty interesting on the materials side of it for sure.
How long do you think this demand's going to continue, Isaac? Do you feel like it's tapering off, or do you feel like it's still just full swing?
It's definitely tapering off. I mean, the analytics that we watch, and Amazon actually just talked to us last week about the demand they need. They've been pushing on us for 5 weeks, and I've been basically saying I can't support you because I can barely service the orders I have. But we're now in a position where we can. But working through them and the analytics they've provided us, we're seeing about a 60 to 80% drop in the demand or demand traffic, trending traffic in that direction. But that being said, the demand was so high. I mean, we're talking 1,000% increase. It's still 200 or 300% over what you would expect. And they don't see that tapering off too much further. I think the huge surge is finished. But only time will really tell like how long face masks will continue to play a part. Some studies are coming out now that are a little bit more scientific that are showing some effectiveness of face mask versus the COVID-19. I know there's been a lot of controversy back and forth on what's the effectiveness of it. I think that will really put a big either support the face mask philosophy or it will put a damper in it. So.
Yeah, it feels to me like the CDC and the World Health Organization have come back and forth on the face mask issue. That part seems crazy to me.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to ask you maybe one or two questions, and then we'll go on to Greg. Do you think this doesn't sound like a permanent shift? Is this going to be a permanent shift in your business, or do you plan to expand maybe into more PPP or more PPE, clothing or anything like that? Or what's your thoughts on that kind of process?
No, absolutely not. I think it's not a permanent pivot for us. Absolutely. I think, we've worked hard and want to continue to establish ourselves for what we do best, and that is handmade, high quality, handcrafted leather goods. We also want to make a really good high quality mask. The ones that we make are washable, usable, hopefully a little bit stylish, and obviously safe. But that's probably the justification of where we're at. I mean, clothing, so on. That's an industry that I think requires a little more expertise and definitely more of a footprint into it. We're happy to help. I think the demand has been there and the need was there for local manufacturers that could do this. That's where we look at this as being the case. So I think that there will still continue to be a need for masks probably through the end of the year. So we'll probably continue in that capacity. But our goal is to get back to selling our products. And that is the one thing I will say is that for us, we did kind of see two sides of that. I mean, with the increase in search traffic online for us, for face masks itself, it definitely helped us on our own product. It allowed us to get more visible in that regard. But we'd like to get back to doing what we do best. So,
looking back at it, if you had to do it all over again, would you do it?
Yeah, I think I would. I mean, it's a headache. You go from two sewers that know how to really sew masks to over 45, 50 in 5 weeks, as well as material and making 350,000 masks. A challenge, absolute challenge. But manufacturing products for the last 18 years, I think, has helped. I have a very experienced team that's behind me. I give them a lot of credit. They were the ones that kind of took our already existing knowledge of manufacturing and just tweaked it with the materials and the actual product that needed to be built. And so in hindsight, yeah, I would do it again if needed.
That's awesome, man. That's a great testament to entrepreneurship there, just seeing that and then being able to actually manage all the logistics, man. My hat's off to you.
Thanks.
Greg, you're up next, sir. Greg's a little different story. He's runs Telligent IP, and I think he got impacted by the coronavirus and COVID. And Greg, why don't you tell us your story?
Sure. Let me tell you a little bit about what we do. We're probably not as well known as the other two there in your marketplace. But Telligent IP is a telecommunications company. We provide and sell to enterprise customers unified communications, web collaboration, much almost like identical to this Zoom meeting that we're in. We sell it in various forms to customers. We do a lot of call center customers around the world. We have customers now in about 18 countries. And so that's one area that as we have come into this has been an area of growth. I think much like for Ogden's own distillery or others, this is something that most companies have been able to capitalize and grow on because people are now working remotely. We didn't pivot. We had so much invested in the direction that we were going that we had to stay the course. And for the technology and the services that we offer, there wasn't really an option because of the time to develop and lead time and get to market and product testing. But we have noticed a significant surge and increase in or shift in the way that people do communicate and use our services. With using flexible services like ours, we've been able to work with companies and instantly reprovision them to now work from their home. So the same, communication style with the receptionist and, extension dialing and so forth, we've been able to turn up right away for people to work remotely. That was always one of the benefits of the type of services Voice over IP provides.
Yeah.
We have seen a significant decrease in certain amounts of customer verticals as to their usage, where they've just shut down. They haven't needed the services. So it's interesting to see a lot of them calling and asking for, forbearance or maybe a temporary disconnect on their services. Yet others have popped up overnight, and you turn up hundreds of call center seats in a different country to manage all of the unanswered calls. One thing that I think is when I said customers have changed or shifted the way that they communicate, I'll give you an example. But first, when we started our company about 8-9 years ago, we took the top talent from several large companies to start, and really formulated a core nucleus that we built the network first and slowly built it before really going to market. And some of that, with some of the genius minds that we had, we started developing and innovating a unique product in messaging and SMS, texting, online web chat. Now, I know that you're probably, thinking, oh, it's just I have it on my cell phone, but this is something that's entirely different. And we are able to take somebody's existing phone number, even if we aren't their phone company, and SMS enable it. Think of all the times you've been texted by a doctor or dentist for an appointment, and you hit the button to call them back and it's a dead number. It's not associated with them and you don't know who it is. We solve that problem, but we also have a way in which we can create a contact center or message delivery queues, much like when you call on the phone. Press 1 for this, 2 for that, get to the right department and agents. A national doctor's office, I should say a medical clinic, these medical clinics all around the country that all operate under the same brand and name. They came to us with a unique problem. They need to see patients, but they can't have all their patients gathering in the waiting room. And so we were able to turn up in a matter of a day a system and a solution that allowed them to text their client or the appointment and say, and the patient instantly recognized that it was the number of this clinic, and it said, for safety, when you arrive for your appointment, stay in the parking lot and simply text this message back that you have arrived. And we will then notify you when the waiting room and other room is available or free, so that you can come up and just go right into your appointment. And that allowed them to keep the population, or I should say gathering control, down at a minimum. It was an instant success for them at all of their locations. It made clients actually keep appointments that they otherwise might not have, really made a dramatic shift for them moving forward. So that's one of the areas that we've seen that people have pivoted their own use of services. So there's several others in that regard, and that is we see a huge spike in our network traffic. We've when you have a lot of people working all at the same building, you have an enterprise with 1,000 employees, and they just use our system to communicate with each other, or they have face-to-face meetings. We had a spike of everybody using it all from their homes and trying to communicate, which is different. So those are all things that we had to prepare for. Thankfully, we were. So the scalability was there.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's very cool. I know that we had to take our daughter to the hospital. She had an ear infection, and I was forced to sit out in the car, and they let my wife go in. But it would have been nice to get some sort of a text message from stating what was going on, instead of sitting in the dark.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to add is that we didn't pivot and start new. I mean, I'm certain that Steve and Isaac, both in their businesses, had significant investment to even just kind of retool and start adding a new business line. We instead opted to use this time where some areas of our business are slower, others have totally increased, and as the customers have pivoted their use, we've taken this time to invest significantly actually in our network to augment it and prepare for the resurgence and the comeback. Something that allows us to offer even better services more efficiently when it comes back.
Go ahead, Greg. Sorry. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just saying that it's been again, one of those things that we had started just prior to this, and then we had to really take a hard look and say, do we continue down this path and believe in our future, or do we put a pause on it? And we doubled down and said, yeah, we absolutely believe in our customers and in our future, and so we've been doing it.
It's awesome. Do you see the continued teleworking going into the future? I mean, we had panel discussion with Governor Cox this morning, and Utah's done several studies on it, and Peter Reichard's done studies on it, and they just say that this is only going to increase, and that people are going to be, predominantly working from home versus going to an office.
Right. Well, I do, and that's been part of the trend that we've seen, and that's a value add that we try to sell to clients. So years ago, long before we started this company, there's a book on the marketplace, and then even a webinar on it. It's called Work Naked, right? And what it really means is that who knows if I'm wearing pants or just a pair of shorts, right? It is that people now work from the comfort or convenience of their home. In that book, they talk about why this is an important aspect and why it will continue to grow. If you think back to your college days, everybody, you have an introvert that wants to have complete silence in their dorm room and nobody else around. The independence of that individual is then determined by their success in school. Another person needs to have complete silence but access to all of the tools at the library, and that's where they study. And you have people like Steve, Isaac, myself, and you that need social interaction, and we're in the student union building and bowling and laughing it up. But all of us are then judged based on our performance in school. And if you take that into an office environment and shift any one person into a different environment, they would fail. You take a person who's a salesperson who's locked in at the office and can't get out and socialize, he's going to fail. You take the introvert that needs silence and put him in the middle of a loud crowd at an office with water cooler talk, they're going to not succeed. This is the best tool that allows a company to select, or even allow employees to self-select the best option for them. Certain departments can work remote. Some need the ability to collaborate face-to-face, on the same, drawing table or so forth. But the tools that we sell, again, much like Zoom, allow for the coming together as if you were at the same table as well. I've been in the operating room using technology that we provide with and done heart surgery. Actually, it was just a pacemaker implant with the doctor, and the manufacturer was on the other end. And so those are some of the things that we can do with this type of telemedicine and virtual remote working.
It's fantastic. I've got a question. And I want each one of you to answer it individually. It's for all of you, but I'll start with you, Greg. In your opinion, how's the pandemic affected your company's long-term future?
We're optimistic about the long-term future because of the increase in people wanting to work remotely and telecommuting. Much like the surge of online ordering and takeout orders people now have shifted their mindset, and they'll not go back to the brick and mortar as frequently. the same is true for our industry. And that's why we are really investing in, the network of the future right now, and, allowing for growth. So we are very optimistic about what it means.
Okay. Steve?
What has done, it gave us another revenue stream during this time. And while it turns out liquor sales tend to be up while everybody is sitting at home drinking 24/7. So it hasn't hurt us in that way. And the added revenue stream allowed us to really give back to the community. And so I feel that, we've made an investment back into our community, and I think that will pay dividends going down the road. That's not the only reason to do it, but I can't help but think that happens. But it also is, we've just moved into a new facility as well. And it gave us a vision of what's possible given space. And so we moved about 3 weeks ago in the middle of all this as well. And the moment we got into our new 34,000 square foot facility out of our 6,000 square foot facility, it just changed the nature of our business and that vision of what's possible.
That's a lot of expanded capacity for sure.
Yes.
Isaac?
Steve, congratulations on that.
Thanks.
I would echo Greg. I'm very optimistic about the future. Our products are kind of, we're known for our leather journals and notebooks, which during this time, I think there's been a lot of this dynamic of kind of slowing down, kind of reevaluating our current fast-paced lifestyles, right? And so there's definitely, we've seen some uptick in our product line because of that. Long term, what I'm most proud of right now and feel like that there will be more of a need of this and maybe some more awareness is just this this preparedness that we talked about a little bit earlier, this our ability to manufacture here locally and quickly for us is something I don't think is going to go away. In fact, if anything, it's just heightened the recognition of having local sources, especially in times of need, that can turn on to making hand sanitizer from liquor or vodka or any of the other things, or even products where it's from leather goods to cloth and fabric needs. And so on long term, I'm feeling very optimistic. I think that definitely some changes. There'll be some bumps along the way, having gone through 2011 or 2001, 9/11, and then 2008 recession. I think this isn't necessarily the same thing, but it is definitely a shift in mindset. I'm still pretty optimistic.
Very good. I don't know if any of you have taken advantage of the government assistance, the PPP loans or the EIDL loan. If you have, did it help you keep things on a good footing?
I'll go first. We were able to get the PPP. A nominal amount. We have 50 employees. And as this thing started, we saw a lot of layoffs and everything else. We had to, we reassured our employees even before this became available that, we're going to keep everybody and we need them to, stay busy and maybe focus on some of the other projects that we have going on. When that came in, it helped us out a little bit on smoothing some of the bumps, but I'd still say it was a pretty big speed bump.
Did you see a decline in revenue, Greg?
Like I said, some industries had a sharp temporary decline. These are leaders in their industries. Some of them are in the $1 billion range, and they had significant decline of furloughs and so forth, and others have popped up out of nowhere. As I also mentioned, there has been a pivot in mindset and the way other people communicate, and it's allowed us to grow revenue in other areas like our messaging and some of our unique call center products, as well as remote working. So overall, March was steady. April, we saw a decline in some areas. We also have companies really trying to preserve their cash flow. I mean, big companies that are crazy big call and say, look, we want to see if we can have a delayed payment plan, or if we can defer payment. And we're like, oh, sure. A lot of companies are doing it, and we just disconnect the services. They're like, oh, no, we don't want to disconnect. We want to keep it. And so the fact that many of those are entering into deferred payment or so forth with us because of the recurring revenue model, that's affected our current revenue. And I guess the best part is that we have a relationship strong enough with our customers that they call and they are open and talk about it. And then we're prepared rather than having all the alarms go off.
Right. Steve, did you take advantage of either loan application?
Yeah, we did get PPP funds. And really at the time, we got it in the first round. And what it did was we were very uncertain about what the future held at that time, mainly because of the supply chain. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to continue making hand sanitizer or whatever. So what it did was gave us a map towards a future of either getting the ingredients and raw materials needed to do what we need to do to continue, or to feel comfortable in that we could keep our employees, employed during the time. Now, luckily, it hasn't been, it was more of a comfort blanket than a real need. The situation didn't get dire in that regard. We have lost some employees along the way due to cause. So we'll probably end up paying some of it back. We won't be totally forgiven on what we've used. And again, we only had about 10 employees to start off with, so it wasn't a huge amount. We weren't getting millions or anything.
Right.
It was just enough to give us a comfort for the next 8 weeks.
Perfect. Isaac?
Yeah, we also took advantage of the PPP loan. We have 40 employees generally before we started producing masks. Most of the mask employees we have are contractors, so they technically don't even count. But what PPP did for us was that, those first couple of weeks, we had almost no revenue. So that's been, our cash reserves that we had to just float in order to keep our people employed, as well as transition to the mask is really what that PPP money has been used for. Obviously, in the payroll is where that's gone, but it has allowed us to largely keep the staff that we had pre-COVID, and with my anticipation is that we'll be able to continue that. So it's been a pretty big help for us. I'm not gonna lie, I think as crazy as it was to get funding from the banks, I feel like for that to come from the government all the way through to the business owners was pretty quick in terms of timeline. So
very quick. One of our sponsors, David Stahl with Hillcrest Bank, processed, I think, around 1,800 or 2,000 loans in a very short period of time. And I would try to call him, trying to coordinate this event with him. And, I was getting texts late at night and stuff, and he was just slammed. And I know the whole bank system was. And my hat's off to the banking system, to be honest with you, because I don't think they're realizing any revenue from this at all. And they still have the burden of collecting the money. So my hats are off to the banking system. From what I understand, this has not been a windfall for them in any stretch of the imagination. I have got one more question, which is, will this be an ongoing part? I know, Greg, that you doubled down and reinvested into your company and are reinvesting into technology. Is this going to be an ongoing part for you guys moving forward? Do you see this as a long-term play in your business?
Yeah, I do. I mean, look, I'm going to take Zoom as an example. They're a competitor, really. And Zoom actually pivoted into our industry as part of this. I mean, Zoom is ever present, and that's in large part due to their freemium model. Everybody gets a free account and it has limitations. And that in and of itself really set them up for huge success and in this period of time. So they did well. They have a lot of, respectfully, they have a lot of security issues. If you haven't seen, FBI or all the other things have actually had to stop using those because of that, and financial institutions, so forth. We do provide secure solutions with all of the encryption and security of people who can and can't attend. So when we get that message out to our customers, we know that the shift. We have some customers that maybe were purchasing some products of ours and weren't fully aware of the others that we did. And so I know that we'll confidently get them shifted to what we can do when we are able to extol the value, security, and the support that they already know they can get from us. So yes, it's going to be a big part of what we're doing forward, and we're glad we made those investments.
Thank you, Greg. Steve?
We've been authorized by the FDA and the TTB to continue making it through December 31st.
Okay.
And so the initial time period had been into June, and they've expanded that to the end of the year. I think we'll continue to make it through the end of the year and just kind of see what the market looks like. It's not much different than making liquor. You're just bottling, it's a bottling process, blending and bottling. And so if it seems to have legs moving forward and we can start getting into retail accounts and find ways to turn it into a viable business, we'll keep doing it. If it seems like we need to just focus on what was our core, which is making quality spirits at reasonable prices, we will continue to do. Well, we're going to continue to do that no matter what, but we will focus on that. So
Nice. How about you, Isaac?
Kind of similar. Face masks actually for us is not a long-term play, but we have gotten a lot of feedback on the fashionable side of it, I guess I will. I think there's a preference out there beyond the need or the scientific reason to wear a mask. And so, we'll continue to probably through the end of the year developing cool new patterns, different ways to attach them, structure them. The fit seems to be a big deal for a lot of people. That's the biggest feedback we get, which I get. It's basically a fashion piece. It's like a piece of clothing at this point. So we'll kind of play with that and just watch that happen. That's kind of the nature of our brand. We're very creative and designer driven. But once again, I don't foresee this being a long-term play, but we want to make sure we are at least providing an option, and then two, I think the next step will be is just to look at it a little bit more from the creative side, and then see where that goes. But not long term in our book right now.
Perfect. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for being part of the panel. I thought this was a great discussion. I appreciate your honesty and candor in it, and thank you for being a part of it. Our next panel starts at 12:15, Angie Morgan. Please go check out the exhibitor booths and thank our sponsors. Without our sponsors, this event wouldn't be possible at all. So please go in, you can talk to them and say howdy and all that good stuff, and go meet our sponsors, and look forward to seeing you at 12:15 with Angie Morgan. Everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
See you guys.